When people talk about masculinity today, they might think of somebody very aggressive or outrageous like Andrew Tate or Jake Paul. But when I think about masculinity, I think of an old Hollywood actor named Gary Cooper. And I think there are some important lessons that men today could learn from Gary Cooper. Born in Montana, Cooper was a real-life cowboy, and he brought those down-to-earth values and dignified form of masculinity to his movies. In his movies, he didn't say a lot. He is the embodiment of the strong, silent type that I see is missing out there in today's understanding of masculinity. So in today's video, I'm going to explore 6 traits that Gary Cooper showed on screen and see what we could learn and how we can apply them to our lives today. Hello, my name is James, and I am on a mission to create a generation of gentlemen. The first character trait we can learn from Gary Cooper is quiet confidence. Today, masculinity is often associated with being loud, aggressive, and domineering. But Gary Cooper showed us that true masculinity and true strength can be very calm and respectful. Now, Gary Cooper had a rather commanding physical presence. He was very tall, he was in good shape. But with his body language and his movements, he was rather slow and deliberate. And the way he carried himself, it proved what kind of man he was. And he didn't need any embellishment with any status symbols like cars or designer clothing. Probably the first movie you should watch to understand Gary Cooper is High Noon. So in this movie he plays Will Kane, a marshal that's about to retire as he gets married. But then he finds out that a gang of outlaws is returning to town, and he tries to round up people to help him to defend the town, but nobody will. So he confronts these outlaws alone. But he's never seeking glory or trying to boast about how brave he is. He simply does what he believes is the right thing to do. And from this, I learned that strength is about doing the right thing quietly, even when it's very difficult. It's not about doing things for validation or so that you can boast about them afterwards. Another value that Cooper demonstrated with his movies was integrity and moral courage. Many of his characters faced a moral dilemma. They had to choose between what was right and what was easy. And with these movies, he taught men that sticking to your principles is a key part of being a man. Gary Cooper often played an everyday, kind of ordinary man. And in the movie Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, he plays a fairly simple, small-town guy who finds out that he's actually inherited a fortune. And he goes to New York and he's pulled in all sorts of different directions with corrupt people trying to tell him how he should spend his money. He needs to buy this, he needs to hire these people. But all he wants to do with his money is set up a program so that the poor and the disenfranchised can have land, make a living, and help their American dream come true. And he's absolutely ridiculed for this idea, even accused of being mentally ill. But he sticks to his principles, and he believes in the simple value of helping people. In a world that's corrupt and twisted like ours, doing the right thing might even result in you being shamed or ridiculed. But if you genuinely believe it to be the right thing, then the most masculine thing you can do is stick to your guns. Gary Cooper also showed us that men can be vulnerable as a form of strength. There is this stereotype that men must always appear to be invincible, but in many of his roles, Gary Cooper's characters grappled with doubt, with fear, and with emotional pain. And a great example of this is the movie Sergeant York. When men are called to fight during World War I, Alvin York is a very reluctant soldier. He's a deeply religious man, and therefore he's a pacifist. And at first, he conscientiously objects to the draft. When his request is denied, he spends a lot of time grappling with this inner conflict. Should he stand by his country, or should he stand by his faith? And in the end, he resolves this, and he ends up becoming a hero. And I won't ruin the movie and tell you exactly how that happens. But here's the lesson we take from this. Masculinity requires you being honest with yourself. And it's okay to have moments of doubt, as long as you take the time to reflect upon it and resolve it and therefore find your true courage. Gary Cooper also taught us to have respect for women and to value relationships. His characters often treated women with respect and admiration, whether it was his mother or his wife or his girlfriend. Today there might be this idea that being a man means dominating the relationship, or even being dismissive of the idea of love. But with Gary Cooper's characters, he cherished and respected women without being condescending. There was a real message of mutual respect. And one of the best examples of this is his portrayal of Lou Gehrig in Pride of the Yankees. One of the most beautiful parts of this movie is his relationship with his wife Eleanor, which is a relationship of love, of mutual respect and support. Even though Gehrig is indeed the pride of the Yankees, he puts his family and love before his ego. I think a great measure of a man is the way he treats others, and particularly how he treats women. Showing respect for women and cherishing a woman's love is one of the most masculine things you can do. Gary Cooper also proved that heroes come in all shapes and sizes, and often the everyday man can indeed be a hero. His best loved characters weren't superheroes or larger-than-life figures. Instead, they were ordinary men who faced extraordinary circumstances, as we all will at some point in life. And this relatability makes his portrayal of masculinity accessible to all of us. You don't have to be a billionaire with supercars and beautiful models around you to be a man. In fact, somebody with a pickup truck, some land, and a family, to me, is much more of a man. Even when playing a legendary character like Wild Bill Hickok in The Plainsman, he brought a sense of grounded reality to the character. Yes, he was a sharpshooter and a lawman, but he was also human and flawed, and that made his heroism all the more authentic. You don't have to wait for monumental moments or monumental accomplishments to prove your masculinity. Instead, it's about striving for greatness in the everyday. How do you conduct yourself in ordinary situations? How do you treat the people that you see and spend time with every day? That will define your masculinity, much more than any material possessions or well-known accomplishments. The final point I want to touch on is Gary Cooper's enduring legacy. Gary Cooper died aged 60 in 1961, but the movies that he made and the values that he demonstrated with his roles still resonate with people today. And in today's conversations about masculinity, I think Gary Cooper provides an excellent example of how a man can be very nuanced. There are many different aspects of his personality that make him masculine. What I think young men can learn from Gary Cooper in particular is how to balance confidence with humility and how to balance strength with sensitivity. Gentlemen, I would like you to let me know in the comments who is another actor that you believe embodies these classic masculine values. It could be somebody from the golden age of Hollywood like Gary Cooper, or perhaps it's a more modern actor like Tom Hanks or Chris Evans. Thank you for watching today's video. Remember to watch the movies that I referenced earlier on. I think when you see them for yourselves, you will learn your own lessons and get your own understanding of who Gary Cooper was and what he represented. I'll see you gentlemen on the next one.